afternoon, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Okay. We'll wait for a couple of your fellow neighbors to find a seat here, and then we'll jump into the state of the castle. But did everybody weather the storm okay yesterday? Did everybody get home safely from dinner last night from the dining room? Okay, good. I just want to give a quick shout out to Eric and the maintenance team before we get started for their efforts in not only the snow plowing that they've done throughout the winter, but yesterday I think Eric went through 1.5 pallets of salt just around our campus, and I know that, I don't know if some of you saw the news about how many pounds of salt is being dropped consistently and always, but it was a little bit of a treacherous ride home. This morning was very easy to get in, but also just want to say thank you to Eric and the maintenance team for their efforts, because again, I don't know if you know this, but Eric was out there. He has a full team. They're basically monitoring it 24 hours, trying to stay proactive with it and also stay on top of it with the resources we have. So really appreciate Eric and the team's efforts. I do understand that there's slick spots out there. I walked around 10 o'clock yesterday morning to CVS, and Downer was a little bit slippery, so I gave Eric a call, and Eric got right out there and started the first layer of salt that ended up being, I don't know, by 5 or 10 layers later. But it appears that we have some good traction sidewalks. But again, thank you, Eric and team. All right, so welcome to this month's edition of State of the Castle. Is there anybody here for the first time? All right, then you know the fun we get to have. All right, I'll start it off with Kathy Johnson as she's walking up, your resident council president, for an update from the resident council. Kathy.
Hello. Hi. So good to see. Oh, now what do we do? Is it on?
Yep.
Oh, wonderful. Good. Doesn't sound like it. Oh, it's those ears. Okay. 4 things for you today. Number 1, garden committee. Yes, there will be a garden. It won't be much this year because we're starting over brand new. But I want to make sure that everybody knows that the 3 beds outside of the dining room are flower beds that residents take charge of. It's what we decide we want planted. And then we take care of those 3 beds. And we can putter around with the stuff at KBI. You know, if you love deadheading, some people love to deadhead. Hopefully there'll be lots of stuff to deadhead. But no matter, even if you had a garden and you loved to putter in your garden, it really is nice to be able to have that out there. Because some people really enjoy it. I hate it, but Roy loves it. He grew up with it, and he's been just chomping at the bit to get back into a real garden. So, and he does a lot of the heavy lifting stuff, but he's getting older too. But anything that anybody wants to do in the garden, just be out there and you see a weed and pick it out of the dirt and deadhead and all that kind of stuff. Let me know, because then I will tap on you to be helping us out there. So that's that. And then an environment committee. I think I already mentioned last time that we had an active environment committee, and they particularly did great jobs with Earth Day, didn't they? I mean, everybody who's been here, just wonderful. We've decided to scale back on that a little bit, and we're actually, the environment committee as sort of being explored now by Dennis and Helga. So what the environment committee looks at is this environment, our facility, where we live, and what kind of environmental factors impinge upon us or make us concerned, or things that we can do to help the earth. But Helga and Dennis are beginning to put out feelers. So if there's any interest that you have in those kinds of things, just let me know or Helga and Dennis. That would be very helpful. And Lifestyle Committee will be helping this year with Earth Day to get those things together. Council elections, I think I mentioned that last time, but I want to have you all be thinking about running for a position. We'll have 3 seats turning over, right, Judy? 3 seats that are going to be turning over. So we need to have minimum 3 people running, and then they'd be a shoo-in. It would be nice to have a nice, vibrant group participating in that. So 2 steps to the process. First, nominations. You can nominate yourself. You can just tell us that you're interested in running, and we have a little committee has already been appointed. So Barbara Hill, Sandra Meyer, and Richard Knadler will be the 3 people from the council who put everything together to run the council, the election. Some people say, well, I don't know how things work, so I can't possibly be on a committee or on the council. You don't need to. You will learn quickly once you join the council how things work and how things should work, how you want it to work. So don't let that hold you back. And I just lastly wanted to point it out that some of the council committees have regularly scheduled meetings. I was never very good at that, but regularly scheduled. But some of them are, like the Sandra's Food Committee, the Wellness Committee, the Lifestyle Committee, and those times and dates are on the calendars and the weekly updates, so the weekly things. So if you're ever interested in just coming and sitting in, you have something you want to say, something you're concerned about, look when the committee's meeting and feel free to go to a meeting. They're open to everybody. Council meetings also at that ungodly hour of 9:30 in the morning. Anyway, it's ungodly for me. You're also welcome to come to that. Now sometimes we have to deal with sensitive issues, so just give me a call if you're interested in sitting in, and I can let you know if there's any barriers to the meeting that time. Okay, anything that I need to know from you? Judy?
Sometimes in the past we've had a schedule for the garden, people signing up for different slots. Are you thinking about that?
I haven't thought about that. My feeling from the last couple of years is that people kind of come and go as they want, but if you recommend it, Judy, I'm happy to do it.
It's just a thought.
Yeah. I think I'd like to see how many people really want to do that before we do, so. Yeah, it's going to be a while. It is really going to be a while, so. And I know Roy's really anxious to get going, and he and Joanne Kauth usually go and buy plants. So Joanne has great taste in plants. Okay, thank you. Turning it over to Lindsay.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So for my update this month, I will start with COVID-19, as always, and a health center update or healthcare update. So COVID-19, currently right now we have 0 cases still, which is fantastic, as the Milwaukee County positivity rate is still 10.4%. So we are still in the red, technically. We have no staff as well as no residents. In addition, we also have no flu or current RSV or neurovirus in the building. That being said, things are going around, the common cold. Different GI bugs are creeping up on some schools. If you have grandkids or children who are coming to visit, visitors, maybe just double checking how they're feeling, if they've taken a test. If they're not feeling up for it, maybe they reschedule their visit. Because the last thing we need is a neurovirus or the flu trailing throughout the community, as we know how that spreads. Again, our best line of defense is washing our hands. So hand washing, hand washing, hand washing, hand sanitizer in between your hand washing. But for things like neurovirus, soap and water is key. And if you are feeling ill, do we all know who to call? Teresa, excellent. That was very good. I was going to say Ghostbusters. No. We all call Teresa Jenkins if we are not feeling well. She can bring fluids, deliver your meals, check in on you just to make sure that you are feeling up to be out in the community. So we want to keep you and your neighbors as well and safe as possible. I have a question for this month. Just how much longer do you anticipate visitors will have to wear masks to visit IL residents? This is a great question because I think we're all having mask fatigue. And, you know, it's no different than going out into the community, one would say. Our community policy, in accordance with the CDC, is once we are 5% and under for positivity rate in Milwaukee County, we will get rid of those masks. Now, I know further commentary, or it seems pointless, some might say, to have a mask as if they come into your apartment, they take it off. But we have many different clinical needs in this entire community. People you pass in the hallway, people in our healthcare areas who could be in the hallway and passing by that don't have as strong of immune systems as you necessarily. So we still want to keep that until the positivity rate is below 5%.
And what is it now?
10.4%. Yes.
That was my question. I just have a little follow-up.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been told we need to put on the masks when we go into Bradford Terrace. And yet, the lovely residents who live there are in and out and back and forth all the time with no mask. So I don't understand that dichotomy. I can understand it for the nursing home floor, and I mean, all of that I understand it. But I really don't understand it for the folks who live there, come out, and we have to put masks to go in.
So the question is, when independent living residents go into Bradford Terrace, why they need to wear masks when residents in the healthcare areas are not required to wear masks. So again, all of us in this room are going out into the community more often than not, versus our individuals who are in those Bradford Terrace floors 1 through 5 are not venturing out into the community, especially not recently, unless they have an appointment, and we do recommend that they, or encourage and ask that they also wear a mask. And I understand it seems pointless, but at this time we are following the CDC recommendation. You know, we are still used to wearing masks. We should still have them, and the front desk still has them to offer.
Lindsay, it's also a regulated area within the community for the state of Wisconsin, so.
Yes, and it is also a regulated area, as Tyler mentioned. Our 1st through 5th floor, our 1st and 2nd floor are RCAC, 3rd floor is CBRF, level of assisted living memory care, and the health center being 4th and 5th. So we also, not only from our community standpoint, we have those additional strict regulations to follow that have further COVID requirements beyond what an independent living community has. Yes?
The reason I am interested in the masking thing is that I go over once a week to get my hair done. And that's the only reason I'm over there. And I'm wondering if we can't have something like what was the 2nd floor, 2nd floor hairdresser back in our area.
That will be to come, but as of right now, we are using Bradford Terrace basement as the main hairdresser. That is still a part of the regulated area, so it is a bit of growing pains. Again, if you need to take your mask off to breathe, or if you have a respiratory, prolonged clinical condition that would deter you from wearing a mask, we do understand that. We also know you're all vaccinated in this room and going into that area, but again, being able to go out into the community, go to the grocery store, Cafe Hollander, CVS, we still recommend to go into those regulated areas, the required mask.
Where is the beauty parlor moving?
The beauty parlor eventually will be on the
So
fitness center.
So the Bradford Terrace will always have a salon. That Bradford Terrace salon will be for the healthcare area. There's a brand new salon that's being built in the wellness center. That'll be off the Lake Terrace building. So that will be the independent living salon, so to speak, for the campus. And we've been working with PS Salon to work through those procurement of items as well as the design of that salon space.
It's not gonna be next to the swimming pool.
It will be in the wellness center, right, where the swimming pool is and the fitness center. So where the wellness center is, yes. But Bradford Terrace will remain as a salon, again, specific for those healthcare residents. Yes, Liz?
We've had a lot of problems with PS salons in the past.
Yep,
I'm wondering why we're still keeping them.
So that's a topic, right? PS Salon. So today, the hairstylist for PS Salon is sick. And so that's why they're closed, and that's why we had to reschedule appointments. I know I spoke to a few of you about rescheduling your appointments since you didn't want me down there cutting hair. PS Salon has been a very strong partner for us since returning to East Castle Place. Without PS Salon, we don't have a salon because I can't carry that salon license through the state of Wisconsin. And also, I am not in the operating world or want to be in the operating world of a salon at this time. So PS Salon, in my understanding, again, the feedback I've received, or maybe lack of feedback because it has gone well, has been going well. Yes, for the majority. They're isolated instances, and they do still need to find another hairstylist to keep up with the demand. But that's my understanding of PS Salon, that they're in a better space now than they were since coming back. Am I accurate in that statement?
Yes.
Okay.
And Maria is exceptional.
Maria's exceptional, even. That's,
Yes.
there you go. Part of PS Salon. All right. Thanks, Liz.
Good. Any other questions for me? No? Otherwise, I'm going to pass it on to Eric.
Thank you. You're welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. I will start with the resident questions first. First question we have is, may I have an update on the plan to replace contemporary apartment windows? Our windows leak. We have puddles on the windowsills, and the temperature is in the 5 degree colder near the window section. So our windows are roughly, 17, 18 years old here. At this time, we've brought in an experienced contractor in to evaluate the condition of the windows. Does it need replacement panes? Do we need to look at storms? Do we need to look at replacement? So we evaluated all of those options. The age of the windows is not past their life expectancy, so the outlook of replacing them right now is not what we're looking at. We're looking at some long-term replacement options, but not right now. What we're really focusing on right now is actually replacing some of the panes as they're damaged. We do have a couple out there. We have a couple problems with latches. So we're focusing more on the repair and maintenance of the windows versus replacement. There are a couple residents that have already been in touch with me about their windows, and their windows are exactly as explained. They are problematic, so we're going to look towards replacing those panes first, try some of the other options before we look at replacement.
No warranty on those windows?
You're not going to find a warranty 18 years later. Not on those windows, you won't. Commercial windows, not so much. They tend to go metal versus some of the vinyls because the metal's going to hold up longer. There's some different things they're doing nowadays that they would prevent some of the heat transfer, or in this case, the cold transfer that we have. But with the sheer volume of windows we have, it's got to be a very careful planning because you're not going to replace this many windows in 1 year. So you want to be with a reliable product and contractor. Yes, Ms. Backlash.
Our windows in the historic are colder. It's colder in the apartment near the window. So I rolled up towels and put them on the bottom of the sill, and it helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ironically, the one that surprises me is that the windows in historic are actually younger than the windows in contemporary. The windows in historic are actually more wood windows, which tend not to transfer the heat as much. I don't really care for wood windows just because you get into the rot issue. But those ones are a little bit younger. If we're having problems with those, sometimes just just some maintenance on the windows essentially, just a kind of buffer. Some of the gaskets tend to fail. So if you are having it, don't let me discourage you from putting a work order in. We want to come look at it. Some of those work orders we hold in an open status while we look and we look towards a replacement or repair option. So please, if you're having problems, let us know. Second question I have is, will there be any changes to the carpets or wall coverings in the contemporary building? If not, please repair the wallpaper on the 3rd floor at the C elevator, the corner to the right of the elevator. Absolutely, that corner is disgusting. No, Tom and I talked about that already. There's a couple spots actually throughout the contemporary building. We're going to be bringing back in a contractor we've used before to repair wall coverings. I've been in contact with them. We're looking to get a proposal from them and then have them come out and schedule the repairs. We're trying to make sure we keep up the hallways and such. We have a painting contractor here now that's working on the 2nd and 1st floor of contemporary so we can finish that building as we've made promises to do so. But the flooring at this time isn't in the scope of replacement because it isn't really past its life expectancy. Really what you're looking for is a lot of wear patterns. The wear patterns are when life is kind of gone in the carpet. We don't have that problem. About the worst I can see in it, and it would happen to any carpet, is 10 and 11, that apartment area. We do get some bleaching of the carpet from the strong sun. So, but other than that, the carpet's in good shape. If we do see issues, again, don't let me discourage you from putting in the work order. We will call out a carpet company or re-glue, repair areas where it's necessary. But at this time, we're sticking with what we have. Last question, please ask that the bird feeders be hung within individuals' balconies or place a tray underneath the feeder to curtail debris from landing on balconies below. I know that's come up quite a bit in the last year. We certainly won't want to discourage you from having a bird feeder, but we want you to do it responsibly. If you pay attention to the resin handbook on page 32, reference that for some more details, but really it's all about if you have one, make sure you clean up after it, take care of it so it's not bothering your neighbors below. My last item is, I just want to say thank you again for letting me bother you in your homes over the past week with the fire alarm testing. It's an annual requirement that we want to do for the city. So thank you again for letting us in your homes and then tolerating the blaring noise on Tuesday at 2. Hopefully we don't do that too often. No more false alarms, but in that case that was a testing. Any other questions for me? Yes, Mr.
Regarding the noise from the gazebo area during the heating season, it's very loud for those of us who face that, but the windows are closed, so it muffles it quite a bit, so it is not a considerable problem. However, we'll transfer to the air conditioning season. The last indication that we had from you to try to remediate that noise is you're going to install 3 fan motors. Is that still on schedule?
Yes, it is. We've talked to our HVAC contractor. There's some controls we're looking at repairing, and then also the replacement of 3 motors on the fan coil unit up here on the roof. Yes.
If that doesn't do it, are there any other ideas that you would have or the contractors would have in terms of reducing the noise?
To be really honest, not at this time. There's no simple answer, I guess, is the point. So what we had discussed a couple times is basically returning the air handling unit to the original manufacturing condition. That's why we want to replace a couple of motors. Once we get to that original specs condition, that's operating as it should. Beyond that,
that's perfectly acceptable.
Unfortunately, probably any solution is going to be a lot more complicated than one might think to deafen any sound. It's a pretty challenging hurdle to do that. I will touch, it's a few months early, but I'll touch it seeing as we're on it. Muffling sound, just as a reminder, the folks that faced, like you say, you're facing west from Contemporary, there was an air handling unit on the roof that we did resolve. That one it needed acoustical blankets to wrap around the compressors and such, which made the loud hum based on the kind of compressor that it was. That should all be deafened down for the upcoming year. So we won't start turning on, or not turning on, but preparing to turn on our equipment until probably April. Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Meyer.
Eric, we talked about it yesterday. Would you explain the difference between a test and a fire drill and how we should behave in each case if we've been notified?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was some confusion, I believe, what Ms. Martin talking about. We had a conversation over some of the confusion with the testing on Tuesday, whether it was a drill, whether it was a test. I think the loose term is we say fire drill. Now, if it is a fire drill, if we haven't been prepared that it isn't a fire drill, we should act as if it is. So it should be an active fire. In that case, again, I'd say when in doubt, to your home, close your door, stay behind your door. The point is we defend in place in buildings like this. We don't, when I do orientations monthly with the new staff, I tell them it's not like when we were kids, we're on the playground, or in school, where we'd evacuate out of the building. We're never going to be doing that here because we live in Wisconsin. I'm certainly not going to put you from this building out into the cold. Plus, it's such a large facility, what we're looking to do is move you in different sections. And to be frank, that's not even my call. If we're going to do any evacuations, that's at the direction of the fire department. When they're on site, they're the ones that get to make that call. And the reason we fight fires in place so much is because we have a sprinkler system, we have a smoke detection system, we have fire doors and smoke doors all over the building to contain and reduce the amount of advance of the smoke. That's the whole point. So if we did have a fire, I can guarantee you I'd be dealing with more of a water cleanup than I would a fire cleanup. There's sprinklers in every closet and every room in this building. So the advance of a fire would be stopped awfully fast. So the key point, I just say, when in doubt, a fire, if you have not been briefed that there is a testing going on, that would become via memo, you should act if it is a real fire. So just head back to your home, close the door. That is where you are safe. You are protected there. Your door is fire rated, so the fire is not going to advance into your apartment. That is the safest way to be, is in your home. Did I answer that well enough, Mrs. Meyer? You're welcome. All right, next on the agenda is going to be Tyler.
All right, thank you, Eric, and yes, thank you for referencing the resident handbook. The couple of updates that I have are as such. So I'm going to give a little bit on Stacy as well. Stacy's been out of the office for a couple days here. She should be returning tomorrow. But just want to update you on a few of her items as well. But I'll start with the construction and renovation update. Exciting news. I actually had the opportunity to go on a Zoom call today with Anna as well as Jordan and the marketing team and meet and greet some of your neighbors and give them updates on Zoom. I think we had 8 or 10 of them from Florida, Virginia, Door County, right here in Milwaukee. So it was a great group. And one of the questions that I was really excited about, is they're very excited to join East Castle Place, and for all the reasons that hopefully you all are here. But the one thing they wanted to make sure was, as they come to East Castle Place, that they're a part of the community from the start. And I have no hesitation in how you're going to welcome them. I know we have a welcome committee and things of that nature, but I'm just sharing with you that they're excited to join your beautiful campus and join your to be your neighbors. Of that, from that Zoom call, those 10, we'll call it, residents are depositors. All 30 homes are still spoken for, so that's good news. And again, we're still on schedule from a construction standpoint of the Lake Terrace building to begin moving people in mid to late July. So we had a milestone over there yesterday in some really great passing of the city inspections. So now they're starting to do drywall. Jordan said, 13,000 sheets of drywall per floor? So it's a lot of drywall going in and out. Other items, just from a construction and renovation update. On March 1st, so next Wednesday, I can't believe February is almost over already, we're talking about March, but March 1st, Wednesday, you're going to see a large crane on site that's actually going to block the entrance of the 2425 Lake Drive entrance, where all the construction work has been. Hopefully not too many of you are going there, but you'll see it in the memo and you'll also see it on the TV, but just want to make you aware that that entrance is going to be shut down for the better part of the day. So again, it won't hinder your access to the building or anything of that nature. It's more so I would caution you as you're walking around. Again, you can walk on Lake Drive there and around Downer, but please just do not enter that construction area or go into that alleyway on that day, or really try to avoid it as much as possible. But you will see that they have a lot of roof work
that they have to begin to do. So just got that notice today. Again, we'll put that in the memo that you'll see tomorrow from myself, but also since I'm here, might as well let you know. Outside of that, the biggest news, I guess, that is impacting you is that north side of Commons. So if you've seen through the windows, they've painted some areas, and that is coming along well. We are anticipating that area to be open beginning of April, end of March. So again, we're roughly 35 days away from seeing that space. Again, that front entrance, the library area, the bar bistro, your mailroom will be completed. And also, before that partition comes down, that wall that we've all been living with, we should also see some furniture. At least that's the plan right now. And so again, once that wall comes down in between, you'll see your new beautiful front entrance, but we still have some work to do. And that is because the ceilings are built up to the wall point, essentially. So when they take that wall, they have to finish the ceiling. So I'll be holding some meetings in March to really go through some of what the phasing of the flooring and the impact of that is to you. Since there's going to be different ways to get around this community while that's happening, because obviously they have work going on overhead as well as below. And because of the safety of you being the utmost importance, as well as CG Schmidt, I can't have you walking underneath that construction area. So it's going to be interesting. I've been working with CG Schmidt on their initial phasing plans. I've included Eric and Lindsay, and we're going to talk about it as a director team on Tuesday. And then come mid-March, I'm going to share with you in full view of what the phasing plan will look like. So again, anticipate some dates in March to come back to Lindsay Hall. Unfortunately, Lindsay Hall will be going down on or around April 1st. And Stacy and team are going to get creative with where we're going to host activities and community life things. I have a community life meeting later today that I'll be getting ideas on. So again, this is going to be, in full transparency, the toughest part of the project, the most impactful part of the project for you as residents. But the good thing is you'll have some brand new spaces open as well. So again, that front lobby will reopen, the library will reopen, you'll have a brand new bar and bistro area that you can enjoy. But again, there's going to be some areas where you'll have to navigate a little bit differently. So again, much more to come. Again, I don't want anybody to be stressed out about it or concerned about it. We do have a plan in place. You will be shared what that plan is, but I don't want to share right now since I don't have the visuals above. Mr. Woodard.
As you know, one of our greatest disappointments with this construction was the shutdown of the pool. And my understanding was it had to be shut down because of the construction going on above. Is that going to reopen in conjunction with the moving into the new apartments? Is there work going on now so that when the reason is that it's being shut down, will reopen?
Good question. So the question was about the pool. And the pool, as you know, has been shut down since late December, if not before that. And the reason for that is exactly as Dave mentioned, is there's work going on above, and essentially we took down the life safety systems within the water tower building, which made it no longer occupiable per the city standards. The pool is completely drained. The demolition is 90% done. I'm not sure how many of you were at the CG Schmidt update on Friday. I think you might have seen a couple of pictures, but now you have a large scaffolding where your pool was. There is basically a whole brand new fitness center going in. That doesn't alleviate the question of when will it open? Will it open alongside of that July type time frame? And our goal is to open that as soon as possible. And so again, we have to go through city inspections. Best case scenario, that's going to open in mid to late June, ahead of when the residents are moving in July. The reason for that, once I get certificate of occupancy from the city of Milwaukee, meaning that it's safe to occupy, I full well planned to make the fitness center and it has been the priority to get that open as soon as possible, because I do know that is one of the largest missing pieces during this construction process. So yes, that is still the focus, but we are under some constraints of both city inspection as well as life safety, and unfortunately there's a lot of the mechanicals that feed into and around that basement area. Any other questions regarding construction? All right, well again, I know I've said this before, and I want you to know the appreciation that I do have for your patience during this process. I do think we are on the verge of getting through all of this. Again, CG Schmidt is remaining on schedule, and in 4 short months, right? This should be all behind us, which I know is easy to say, but as I look, we've been doing this for a year. And that's tough to believe too, at a point. It's basically a year today, is when we started in Bradford. So I appreciate it, and do know that we are planning openings for you as far as the bar and bistro area. Again, we're not gonna have that operational right day one. We have to staff that and get used to it and all that fun pieces, but we will be doing happy hours, and we will be doing some things to really open those spaces. Same thing with Lindsay Hall. I do know that, again, you as residents are going through it right now, and again, I want to make sure you're recognized for that. Outside of just the large grand opening that we're planning for August, with community members and things of that nature. So we'll be doing, really a nice reveal when Lindsay Hall is done and the flooring is done and all that fun is done, for you as East Castle residents. Resident questions. Seems like ECP services are getting squeezed in spite of monthly fee increases. With less services, no weekend activities, no staff to set up Sunday games, smaller radius for transportation, menu points increasing, and fewer dining opportunities. So, first, we are. I apologize that there's that feeling of being squeezed. That's never the intention of anything we do here at East Castle Place, nor the reasons why we operate. But at the same time, I heard you loud and clear last year, and again, I can't guarantee anything, but 7.5% was something that you didn't want to see again. And so we are taking efforts and have taken efforts, and to be honest, we're taking efforts before that, so that we could still provide a strong suite of services to you, but still make it a manageable fee increase if and when that comes in August. And so we needed to put some of the, I hate saying it, restrictions on some of the services, because it was really applying to not the majority, it was applying to more of the minority, meaning that some residents were again, our drivers, for instance, I'll use transportation and why the policy is set. Policy set to get you out to freighter and things of that nature, and that's covered service. But to take you, outside of freighter and to those specialty appointments, maybe out in Brookfield, Waukesha, took a service offline for your fellow neighbors quite considerably. It took, a driver sometimes 2-3 hours to make that round trip appointment for one person, and so it wasn't for the greater good of the community. So again, I look through the lens of what's the best for the entire community. As far as the menu point increases and fewer dining options, yes, we didn't have a dining room for a while. I think the dining program that we have now is as strong as it's been in my time here in 5 years. With the number of different themed dinners, I know that Valentine's Day we had scallops and tenderloin and lobster. Yes, that was, I think, 26 points at the end of the day. If you stayed within your points limit, that was part of your monthly service fee. So again, as the points rise, again, our contractual obligation is to provide at least one meal per day to you, which we do, and it's a pretty hearty meal. And that gives you choices. At the same time, you yourselves, if you've gone up to the grocery store, see the eggs, which are coming back down, because I think that avian flu bug is the next set of hens are growing and things are on the right track. But you saw the egg prices increase, you saw inflation. All those pieces are still impacting us as a business, and so as a business, as a fiduciary responsible party, that is my
myself, we need to make sure we're doing things that can mitigate some of those things that down the road may affect us in a greater way. And so that's why, unfortunately, we're still not trying to squeeze services. We are trying to contain services to a degree. Again, and that's for the majority, which I think we still offer a pretty strong suite of services as I look at other communities. But again, that's never the intent. That's why we're always listening to you as residents and trying to make the decisions in the best interest of you and for the community. But I also have to look at it from a little bit longer term perspective, so that come October, we don't have to go through, another 8 to 10, 12% increase because we've opened up, and haven't curtailed or contained some of the services we're offering. So, does anybody have any questions on that? I know that might be a little bit more explanation than you were hoping for, but yes, Ms. Beard.
A comment rather than a question, and as one of the residents who has some appointments considerably further than Freighter, taking Lyft has been wonderful to have.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as I understand, that's still being a possibility for getting us to medical appointments further away, and I know there's a distance level, etc. So it seems to me the policy covers all that.
Yeah, and again, the policy is we have Lyft for those outside appointments, and again, medical appointments and different transportations are covered as part of your monthly service fee. But yes, Ms. Pierre, to your point, we can get you to wherever you want to go. If you want to go to Madison, you can take a Lyft to Madison. We're not going to stop you, and we'll help you set that up, and we'll help you get back. But again, I don't think your neighbors should have to bear that cost of that Lyft ride for you to go to Madison. And that's the idea behind the transportation policy, and that's why we have the range that we do. And again, if it's 10.2 miles, we're not going to charge you $2 for that 0.2 or anything like that. Again, that's where the policy's black and white. If you've lived here for a while and have worked or had a conversation with me, usually we find a solution. And that's my whole goal, is to find a solution that's fair for you, that's fair for East Castle, that's fair for everyone. Sometimes can't be always accommodated. That's the goal. Yes, Ms. Meyer.
If in fact you were within the 10-mile radius and you call 48 hours in advance, for some reason they are busy, they cannot take you when they're regular drivers, because they're out and walking somebody else, you will pay for the lift, is that correct?
If it's for a medical appointment, we will pay for a lift. Yes, so the question was, if your drivers are busy and Sandra has an appointment that she requested 48 hours plus in advance, it's within the 10-mile radius, and we say, shoot, we overbooked or something came up, Mrs. Meyer, we're going to have to get you a lift. Yeah, we're not going to bill you for that. That's part of your covered services with us in your monthly service fee. Yes, Ken?
Well, I just want to point out that your comment about really policy based on what benefits the majority, for those of you attending the justice thing on Monday, that's utilitarianism in action.
Is that a good thing?
It depends.
I figured it depends, so. Appreciate the perspective, don't want to jump into politics. So I'm going to go on to the next one unless anybody has any other questions. Yes.
Regarding the new policy for transferring from an existing apartment into a new apartment, I think I left a message with you, but I didn't touch base with you yet. But since then, I've talked about 3 or 4 people and asked for what their idea was in clarification of the issue. And as I brought up issues, they weren't able to explain, so it might have more of a general applicability. There's 2 service charges charged for moving from one residence to a new residence. The first one is for the preparation of the new unit. And my presumption is because East Castle Place provided that when we first moved in, it's like paying for it a second time. And that would not be East Castle's responsibility, it'd be the individual resident's responsibility. So the greater question comes on to the second charge, which I believe is for preparing the vacated apartment for a new residence. Now that seems to be covered under the handbook that you give to the new residents as they check in, in section 2.2, it says that East Castle Place will provide for the apartment preparation to include appliances, carpeting, painting, and about 4 or 5 other things. It seems to me to charge the person vacating the residence that fee is almost in violation of what 2.2 says, that with a new apartment, a new person coming in, East Castle will provide for that. And so my question is, on the second charge, what's the rationale for requiring the resident to pay for that when you already have a policy in place for a new resident coming in East Castle prepared?
Sure, great question. And again, my apologies for not getting back to you when you gave me a call. I believe it was on Monday. You left me a message about this, and I'm happy to meet with you outside of my response here too to get a little bit more granular. The idea behind it is honestly to help with the rising costs in those apartment refurbishments. And again, as I spoke in one of my coffees with Tyler, those are very individualized conversations that I'm will have with an individual that's impacted by that policy, and work with them, because again, it's set up for essentially the whole. It is a deterrent to a degree, but also the flooring and paint for your new apartment, depending if you're going into a larger one or a smaller one, those 2 monthly service fees most likely aren't going to cover the carpeting and the paint costs for that apartment. On an average, it's probably $12,000 to $18,000 to refurbish an apartment, just carpeting and paint, and that includes Eric's time and maintenance, and again, probably new appliances. In most cases, your 2 monthly service fees aren't going to cover that, because your monthly service fees aren't to that level. So that's the reason for the 2 monthly service fees. And again, as those individual conversations come up and as it impacts you, I'm happy to have that conversation and work with you on what that looks like, and help you from a cost standpoint as well as an understanding. Does that help?
Well, it helps, but if we're moving into a new unit, there might be a high probability that the place we move into would not require the full-scale preparation. Many of the people leaving their units, leaving them in good shape, decent enough shape. The appliances might be okay, the carpeting might be okay, the painting may or may not be. But generally speaking, it's not like moving in as a person from the outside coming in and having no opportunity to know what to expect. That people moving from here to another apartment would most likely not entail quite the expense of the complete redo that you're talking about. That might be $12,000 or $14,000.
And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that, but that's why I would love to have this conversation on an individual basis to really understand the dollars and cents of the impact of those 2 monthly service fees versus the impact of the vacating of the apartment, and the moving into a new one. Again, as I said, it's a broad policy. It's set up to help assist us in making sure you make the right selection of your home, and then there's a lot of administrative and domino effect as well for internal moves for East Castle and for your neighbors. So.
So I understand
You're
what
saying there's room for negotiation.
There's always, I mean, again, I don't know.
Service fee is $14,000, and there's only $5,000 worth of.
Let's have that conversation.
We have that conversation.
So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
This is related to the same thing.
Yep.
So you are saying that the individual that would be transferring would sit down with you and maybe take a look at what those new, it might be
100%.
that you don't need that much.
Yeah.
Adjustments might be made.
Right, 100%. I mean, any time a resident's going to move internally or leaving the community, the expectation is, I do have a sit-down meeting with them, or marketing does have a sit-down meeting with them to discuss what that looks like. And so again, there should always be conversation, in my opinion, and that's why I always have an open door, and that's why I always like to have these conversations. But I need a starting point, and I also need something that I can point back to from a black and white policy. Again, protecting not only your neighbors but you and East Castle Place. So there's always, I mean, if you always. Again, I'm not looking to negotiate every single policy. I don't want to open up that Pandora's box because some things will just be this is what it is. But that's a pretty significant change, you know. And in those significant changes, I want to have those conversations. So, yes, Kathy.
I would please request people to not have conversations during this time.
Sorry, if you could refrain from conversations so that everybody can hear. That would be appreciated. Mr. Colt, did you have a question?
Well, I was going to ask something along a similar line. If Joanne and I died and vacated our apartment there, and somebody else is coming in to rent that from East Castle, or not to rent it, but to live in it, aren't the reverberation fees built into their new rate?
Yes.
And would an internal move require an increase in fees for that second apartment that they want to move to? They wouldn't pay the same rate as the previous tenant.
So you're saying you wouldn't pay that if you're
going to charge a higher fee for any vacated apartment, correct?
to a degree, yes.
So wouldn't the refurbishment be built into that higher fee?
Yes and no. Yes, to the degree that rates generally rise, but they don't rise to the degree that, you know, may cover those costs. Some apartments rise $5,000 in entrance fees. Some raise $10,000 year over year. Some raise $2,000. You know, some.
Even if it costs $18,000 to do a refurbishment, the life of that refurbishment is something like 10 years. And that is an expense that's spread. And as a result, if they come in, you're not going to just charge them $1,800 more. You're going to charge them $5,000 more. And that 1/10 of 18,000 should be built into that.
So, I guess the comment that I just want to make to move on from this policy question is that I want to have those individual conversations with you, and if I need to hold a separate internal transfer policy, again, I would ask if you are seriously considering internally transferring to East Castle Place, that it applies to you, and if it doesn't, you're not allowed in the meeting. If it does, then you can come. Deal? So, because again, I do understand that this impacts, from my understanding, I reached out to those that I felt it was going to impact ahead of releasing the memo. That's the information I had. Obviously now, as I released the memo, I understand it also stirs up, well, maybe I want to move, and if I want to move, I don't want to pay that. So I understand that, and I'm happy to have a separate meeting just on that topic, but I would ask in that meeting that if I'm going to hold that it's those that are serious in considering moving internally. If it's down the road and it's you know, if I, you know, pass away, or, you know, if I'm looking to, if I'm looking to move down the road because of X, Y, and Z, we can have those ifs, ands, or buts conversations anytime. But again, I want to make sure it's applicable for the audience that we have. So.
I'd like to talk about transportation, please.
Is it a policy? Are we negotiating, Mickey? Because my negotiation I'll have to do after the meeting if we're negotiating the transportation policy.
Because I was left up in the cloud trying to get back to the castle.
Okay, well that I don't want.
Nobody was responsible for it. And I don't know whether I'm gonna have to pay for Lyft, who went all around. They sent 3 lifts out there to get me.
Okay. Okay, so Teresa is saying we're not going to charge you for that back and forth, you know, yeah. Yeah, no, we're not gonna, if it's something that, you know, East Castle Place is trying to set up and we can work with Lyft on the back end, we're not gonna charge you for
I have no
medical.
complaints because it was just an error in transportation. The lift man didn't know where he was going.
Yeah.
He took me way out of the way.
Oh, no.
I kept saying to him, this doesn't look like the way Asper would go.
Oh,
He dropped me off, and there I am out in Audubon shopping on East Brown Deer
oh, I'm sorry,
for
Mickey.
2 hours.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
All I want to know is I don't have to pay for that lift.
We'll credit you. But I'm sorry that happened. Make sure that you have the phone number to the front desk and make sure you go call back because we can help try to. Yeah, and I figured. But yeah, I'm sorry that those. Yeah.
But only if Lila or Formata are there.
It was just a comedy of errors.
Yes, Sandra.
Do I understand that if you're moving, if you're here, living here, but you're moving to the new building, that one of those fees is paid?
All of them are because you've already deposited on a home that isn't constructed yet.
That move is free.
Yes, because it's not an internal transfer, except as soon as those apartments become online and a Lake Terrace resident wants to move into your apartment, they'll be underneath the same policy. So again, we've made some exceptions knowing that we have a very small segment of your neighbors. All right, why is the parking underground garage not allowed for guests on the weekend when the lot is virtually empty? And why is the garage filled up with employees' cars? So, when Teresa Jenkins was, no, I'm just kidding. So, the garage is nearly empty on the weekends. The reason is that because we have the majority during the week filled with employees. The reason why I just basically took the 2 guest parking spots offline was because it's an administrative headache. To try and say, yep, you can park under there on Saturday, but you came on Thursday. I can't have you there Thursday, Friday, so I'm going to get you your clicker on Saturday, and then you can park in there. Just more, I'm not going to lie, it was an administrative headache for Teresa and team. And right now during construction, we have about 6 or 7 residents that were in the Lake Terrace building in the Bradford Terrace. So the garage spots, that Maureen does such a great job in trying to organize and maintain. That, to be honest, that was the reason. The reason the garage is filled up with employee cars is it's an employee benefit. 2, it allows for space for visitors to park when they're here because that was a concern because all the employees had their cars on the parking lot and then there's no visitor spots. So it's both an employee perk. Generally, you have to be either here for longer than 10 years. Call that the Teresa rule, or you have to be a director in a leadership type of position, majority. So
You pay $50 a month?
we do pay $50 a month, and then you pay us $50 a month for doing that. I'm just kidding. We don't. It's again an employee benefit. It's part of working here. And again, no employee would ever take a spot of a resident. Employees will get booted before a resident gets booted to the upper. So. And then lastly, please remind residents that this is a non-smoking facility inside and out. That is correct. We have since reminded the employees as well as some residents. So again, we're taking those on an isolated situation. Those situations do arise, unfortunately. Feel free to let Teresa Jenkins know, or myself, if you are concerned about that, and we can take care of that. But we are a no-smoking campus, both residents, visitors, contractors, and employees. So again, if you see it, let me know. If you smell something, let me know, so we can investigate and take care of that. So, any questions for myself? Yes, Lynn.
This came up when I was thinking about the fire drill.
Mhm.
Prompted this in my head. And we touched on it briefly at another meeting, I don't remember what. I wanted to ask, our apartments are equipped with those red I need help buttons in the bathroom. Go right to the desk, that's great. I'd like to know if there's an active shooter. College campuses have some kind of text system where every student is notified immediately and told, go to your dorm or whatever. We're in lockdown. was just discussed very briefly, the idea was, if I were to see something as I'm going back to my apartment to get safe, I would tell anybody I saw. 90% of the time, I don't see anybody going back to my apartment. So I was wondering how those text systems work, or couldn't we have a reverse button system or something? Because this is our world.
Yes, and I think we brought this up, unfortunately, at the last State of the Castle about our active shooter policy that we've trained our employees on, and we talked a little bit about it at the meeting with you all. And again, I think I said it was unfortunate that we had to talk about it, because it is unfortunate the world we're living in. The text system is something I would have to look into. As many of you know, we are rolling out a resident portal system through Touchtown. We have a small group of your fellow neighbors that are kind of spearheading that. There may be capability within there to flash an announcement that, you know, if you have your phone and your Touchtown app, something might pop up. That's the best I have right now. The text system is something I would have to look into, which I'm definitely willing to do. And I don't know what that looks like from a campus standpoint. And I'll ask within the other LCS communities if they have another system of sorts.
We also get like silver alerts. I mean, our
Right.
phones are used for things, so I'm thinking.
Yep.
If it's a system.
Yes, and the other thing is, you know, obviously the security of the entrances, you know, Lila Famata and security team overnight are monitoring to add to that sense of security. But you know, the help button and putting in another button specific for, you know, something of that nature might be a little bit more difficult, but I could definitely look into the texting keys. Sure, Rita.
Thank you.
When I was teaching, and this was in the 90s, we had an incident. It happened in my office. I was sitting at my desk and somebody came up behind me. And so they instituted a code that you put this code in on the phone, and they immediately sent for help.
Well, I'm sorry that happened to you, but Dr. Backlars was mentioning is an instance that personally happened to her, and something that she was able to dial, and it went out to the police or something like that. And we have a few of those measures in place here at East Castle Place, like a direct report to the police that we have.
Well,
so, if we have to.
Dean's office, I think. I can't remember where it went.
So.
No, I went to the telephone.
Okay. So, but yes, we'll look into a text that Lynn mentioned. If, you know, again, it scares me to even think that we have to look into it, but you're not wrong. That is unfortunately the world we live in. And again, I shared with last month, and I'll share with you again, we haven't had any threats of that sort. And again, we are very vigilant in the safety and security. Take your own self-measures, again, locking your doors in the evenings and things of that nature, just as a precaution. So, any other questions that you might have? All right, just real quick then, from a Stacy standpoint, two things. Tim Crane's lecture is scheduled for tonight. It is on. I don't know if there was confusion ahead, but tonight and I think next week that will wrap up the series. There is a buffet tonight, Mijarka, right? Yep, perfect. The memorial for Jake Jacobson. I know that our beloved Jake is unfortunately no longer with us. And I've been working with his family along with Stacy and setting a date and time for his celebration or memorial rather, and that is set for March 3rd at 11 a.m. at the United Methodist Church on East Silver Spring in Whitefish Bay. It is at 11 o'clock, like I said, in the church with a lunch to follow. There is a sign-up sheet at the front desk for transportation, our transportation to take you. And we may have to go into if you're able to carpool or things of that nature. But that was posted, and again, we've been working with family on that. And then at the same time, it's also a Symphony Day on March 3rd. So again, we will be having a bus most likely going that way unless the majority of the Symphony rioters
cancel and go the other direction, or not at all. But I do know that I've had many resident questions about Jake's Memorial, so I want to just pass that along. But signage is in the activity book at the front desk. Any other questions that you might have? All right, well, I know there was a lot discussed today, and I appreciate everybody's insight and appreciate everybody's comments. And again, that's what we're here for. My door is always open. I'm available to you if you need anything. However, not tomorrow morning, because Mike and I will be actually going up to Madison to see if we'll be receiving our Historic Designation Award for the castle. And so we're excited about that. But I will be here on Saturday, so I'll catch up with you all then, because I'm director on call. Yes?
One more question. I know that we're losing staff. We're losing staff, we have trouble with staff in the kitchen, we're having trouble with staff in the lifestyle committee with the activities. How are we planning to handle that? Because it's getting cumbersome, not very pleasant for them.
So the question is regarding staffing. And yes, we have had, unfortunately, some turnover in our activities department, specifically in our healthcare and memory care areas, as well as in our dining room, as Majarka and Tanya have been your host and hostesses, I know last night because of the weather. We are actively and engaging and have been in recruiting talented staff. Unfortunately, those staff do have to come to work. That is a requirement of the job, and unfortunately, that's becoming more and more of an issue. And I wish I could laugh at this point about that, but I can't. We also have standards that you have to work well within a team environment to a degree, and we do have standards. And those standards we uphold because I think it's what you deserve as residents and the services, and really the incredible staff that we do have. And that's why we uphold certain standards. Again, I'm not going to say that we aren't lenient on policies to a degree with some, whether that's attendance or I wasn't able to get in because of the snow. We understand that. You're not going to be terminated because you didn't get in. Unfortunately, that means you're getting served from Majarka. Well, probably fortunately, not unfortunately, fortunately, by Majarka and Tanya. But yes, turnover is something that we're all working through. Unfortunately, it's something that, probably pre-COVID we've been dealing with. I can share with you as an industry, East Castle Place is probably in the top, I was going to say 10%, top 25% for sure of communities that are actually staffed across the board. And I'm looking at, our neighbors in Catholic Home and St. John's. I think we're all in a similar scenario where, yeah, we all have positions to fill, but we're all still figuring out how to provide those services. So I know that some senior living communities have shut down their dining rooms on Mondays and Tuesdays, much like many restaurants, as the restaurant industry is still reeling. And I know that, you can't get lunch some days outside, obviously inside these walls, we're having that. And then again, we don't just hire to hire because unfortunately that's not the best practice. So we want to find the right individuals. We do have a recruiter that works for East Castle Place as part of a proactive degree, but when we have these tough times, that's where I'm very proud of the director team and how they step up and fill some of those roles temporarily until we can onboard, train. And Jen McEwen is our human resources director, has done a really nice job in her time here. Along with the director team to help in that onboarding process and training and orientation. But it's tough when the employee doesn't show up to train them. And so then, we do have, unfortunately, a certain threshold. They can't show up 8 times within, basically 90 days. That's kind of our threshold. If they don't show up or are tardy 8 times within 90 days. Generally, that's about 15% of their shifts that I need them to show up for. So again, the staff that are here are working very hard for you and working diligently to try and uphold the expectations that you have. And so again, I ask that in the dining room and throughout, the simple thank yous do go a long way to our staff members. And also that, if they forget the French dressing for your salad, it's okay, we'll go back, but just how we ask that we get that French dressing is important. And again,
Not saying that we've had any scenarios, but again, just those simple things of acts of kindness go a very long way. And so again, just be mindful, and that's to each other as well. And you know, that's something that I remind myself when I'm working with staff. Again, stressful times happen, but we'll get through them. And so, yeah, staffing. We have some positions that are open right now. And so, if you have any wonderful employees or grandchildren or kids that are looking for work, send them our way. I've reached out to my colleagues, and they said, Tyler, if we had them, you wouldn't. Then if they're out there, we would have them. So. That piece is a real thing, and I think East Castle Place, even in the grand scale of things, is in a very fortunate position because, again, we have a very, very incredible group of staff members, and we do have standards that we have to uphold, and so, again, sometimes that doesn't always align. So, any other questions? All right, well, thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and enjoy the last part of February. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.